The following is a transcription of over 100 handwritten pages of my mother's remembrances, journaled in a notebook over a span of years after reaching the age of 88. The words and sentence structure for the most part remain as originally written, vividly projecting her personality, the flavor of the landscape and her view of the times.
The last 2 years Bob couldn't walk more than 10 steps without sitting down. Towards the end I did most of the yard work, perhaps I should say all. I also painted the deck, shoveled snow, and brought in the wood. Bob was still driving, but he couldn't see too good. In 1990, Nancy bought a house on Parrot Ferry Road in Columbia. It was large enough for the two of us to live with her most of the time. The Christmas of '91, Peter Hill called, and told us a water pipe had frozen and broke in the cabin. The water had come up 2 feet inside before he noticed it. Everything was soaked. It took a month before we could live in it. The insurance took care of it, hiring some people to do the work. Bob died on May 22, 1992, after making the best love we had in years. He asked me to sleep with him the night of the 21st. I had been sleeping in the other room because he was so weak and sick. We had come up to the cabin several days before, and the trip was hard on him. He should not have been driving, although our fairly new Chevrolet Blazer sport wagon, I think I bought it new in '87, was easy to drive, even though it didn't have an automatic transmission. We slept, and when we woke up we made love. Nancy and Dad had bought some porno TV tapes, learned things we never knew. I got up to clean when I heard Bob give a gasp. He was half on and half off the bed, trying to put his shorts on. All I remember is, I pushed him back on the bed, and he wasn't breathing. I tried to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but screamed for Peter Hill, and he came. I called the ambulance, they took him to the hospital. I went with them. The doctor came and said there was nothing they could do. I called Nancy, she was there in no time at all. He is buried in the veterans section of a cemetery at Martel, and all the family came. Bob bought his burial plot in '87 when he learned he had only 5 years. The cemetery was being started, and they offered a plot for $50. I think the most enlightened moment, and sure Bob was watching, was when Mary's little Katie danced around and around his coffin during the service. Nancy had already bought the house in Columbia and we were packing up to move in with her when he died. After the funeral I went home with Gary for a month. I flew home, having given him the blazer that I had bought with the rest of my stock from Cap Wells. The girls helped put the cabin up for sale. It sold in 2 days for $89,000. Nancy showed me how to invest it, and I moved in with her in August. The money from the sale of the house in Oakland went mostly for Bob's doctor's bills, as he didn't have insurance. The first thing I did was to buy me a new bedroom set. The second was, redesign Nancy's kitchen. Then I put a window seat in the bedroom. When Kay's oldest children had left home, she divorced John, too many years of abuse. She then met and married Don DeVal Lee. She found a pearl of a nice man and husband every woman dreams about. We had Thanksgiving at the DeVal Lee's Pine Mountain Lake house with Kay's girls, Don's mother and father, and all of Nancy's children. I joined the docents at the state park here in Columbia. Worked and chaired the museum desk for 2 years and have been teaching 4th graders on field trips ever since. Was docent of the year in '95, also 2001, and love working with children. Still help each year at Tent Town and Lamplighters. Nancy and her boss Debbie decided that Debbie's father and I should get together. He had been a widower for years and I, for 2.5. Tom Fleming was an answer to every widow's prayer. Big handsome teddy bear, a gentleman all the time, loves children, yet was a man's man. I think we clicked right away. We met in November, he brought me flowers, and Nancy, Debbie and I went to the fairgrounds Christmas bazaar. He gave me a white teddy bear and 5 pounds of chocolates for Christmas. Nancy and I went to a New Year's party and met his children and brother. They were great and very nice to me. That year we went on a cruise to Mexico, through the Panama Canal to the Caribbean. Went to visit his brother in the desert in February and we saw the desert in bloom. We went to Detroit when his son received the March of Dimes' highest award and medal for the work he did with the paralyzed veterans. Were guest of the '96 Paralympics in Atlanta, where we mingles with the vice president, people running for president, governors, queens, and bigwigs. We stayed at his son's house. We saw paralyzed athletes doing the impossible, some even doing better than those participating in the regular '96 Olympics. On the way there, we visited Polly and Roy Spears. We drove home through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. I loved San Antonio. Tom always went first class. I was always treated like I was a precious jewel to him. Then he got diabetes and congested heart failure. Once we spent 3 weeks at the Legacy in Reno when his brother had a kidney removed. Waitresses would fight to get him seated at their table. A good tipper. He had a '48 Dodge in mint condition, that we rode in parades. Took a trip with his niece and her husband in a $250,000 motor home to Montana to visit another niece who lives in Plains, Montana. Fished on a huge lake in a 35-foot sailboat. What a wonderful 7½ years we had. The last 2 years we didn't do much traveling. I would go down and spend a couple of weeks a month with him. I've taken a few trips, one in 2000, Tom didn't go, it was to Germany, Austria, and part of Switzerland to a passion play put on every 10 years, and then to England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. I made 2 trips with Nancy, one to Alaska from San Francisco and one on a train to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons. Both marvels. I joined a separate Czech travel club, and did a lot of fun trips with them. Every year, the snow train to Reno and the race in Albany every spring. Tom and I took a lot of their trips. I would go back to Polly and Roy's every year where I always feel welcome and needed. Polly's not doing so good. I still keep in contact with the Aussies that were in charge of my tour of England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. I would not have known what a pub was like if not for them. I have attended a few high school reunions. Went with Janice to the Rose Parade. The last 3 months, Tom was in and out of the hospital. I didn't get a chance to spend much time with him. Life almost came to end when I lost him. Since Tom's death I've slowed down. On my 80th birthday I decided we needed a family reunion. So I invited well in advance, all the relatives and family. Come early stay late invitational, they did. We slept under the trees, in trailers, and cars. All the Eastlicks except Johnny showed. Bill Potter and his wife, Bob's sister Grace's daughter Lorraine and Walt. Alice's family. It was great. Poor Nan, she says never again, but perhaps when I kick the bucket she can throw a big wake. I am so proud of my daughters, my son, my grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. On the 2nd of July 2007 I got my first great-great-grandson and this year we'll have 2 more. I know I am bossy, determined to get my own way no matter what, and I am very impatient. Perhaps that was what caused all the fights with Bob. I'm very proud, my damnable pride. I live with Nancy, gamble at Black Oaks with Kay, see sister, Alice, 95 years young, at least twice a year, and am a red hatter. When bored, very seldom, I will daydream house plans that will never be built. Almost got one built for Kay in Groveland. They even blueprinted it, but Groveland wanted a fire engine to be bought by Don and Kay, so that scratched it. They sold the Groveland in town land and built Yosemite Rose, a B&B on Ferretti Road. I try to keep busy at the park. I have survived cancer, try and help at Kay and Don's B&B, and love doing yard work. I managed to get my bathroom enlarged by taking Nancy's closet, adding a whirlpool and walk-in sit-in shower to Nancy's bathroom, plus adding a bathroom to the guest house. My yard is my prize. I go on small trips with the seniors or anyone else's. Looking over the past years, I guess I am really a lucky person. I have good friends, loved two good men, had wonderful parents, and can't ask for a better family.